Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Janusz Maruszewski, and I would like to welcome you to a meeting with. Excuse me one moment. Okay, again. Uh, I would like to welcome you to a meeting with the management board of CI Games. And the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the financial results of CI Games for the first half of 2024 and to present the updated development strategy of the group. And I am pleased to welcome to our meeting Mr. Marek Tymiński, President of the Management Board. Good morning, Marek.
Morning, hello.
Tom O'Connor, Senior Vice President of the Management Board. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
And Katarzyna Sermanowicz-Giza, Financial Director at CI Games. Good morning, Katarzyna.
Good morning. Hello.
The meeting will be divided into two parts, the presentation and a Q&A session. I would like to invite you to participate and ask questions. That's all from my side. I give you the floor.
Hello, everyone, again. We're very pleased to report our first half 2024 results. And what's more important today, talk about the new strategy that runs up until 2028. Just a clear start with executive summary. We had a strong financial results for the first half. We strengthened our business in terms of new development, management, and support team that Tom is running from a position of Senior VP of Development. We are very player first, player centric in terms of how we want to develop games in the future across all our main games, and use the iterative development process to make sure that they're absolutely spot on and in line with the expectations of our players and future players. We made several important optimizations in our business that we reported previously, and we developed a clear strategy to drive future sustainable returns across the next years, coming from our strong portfolio of products. Again, more efficient processes and expand addressable market on each of given games, leveraging prior investments to make great games efficiently that are fulfilling expectations of our audiences, and that major releases we will announce today over that presentation for the next 3 years, starting 2026. First half results. This is a part that I want to hand over to Katarzyna, Financial Director for CI Games.
Good morning once again. So let's start with financials. In the first half of 24, revenue generated by our group were 58 million Polish zloty. The growth compared to the previous period related mainly to release of Lords of the Fallen, which happened in October 23. Lords of the Fallen accounted for 72% of total revenue in the first half. Contracts generated 13%, United Label portfolio 4%, and the rest was attributable to back catalog. Gross profit on sales was 17 million with the margin of 29%. Sales margin is impacted by amortization of the Lords of the Fallen. This amortization started in October 23, and it's planned to amortize the game within a 5-year period. Also, it's worth it to mention that in April this year, we fully amortize contracts too. So majority of amortization relates to Lords of the Fallen. Selling costs were obviously lower compared to the previous period because a year ago we already started incurring marketing cost before launching of the Lords of the Fallen. G&A were slightly also lower compared to the previous period. They included the one-off costs related to dismissal of the board member, which happened in February this year. and we also incurred the respective cost savings in the following month. EBITDA amounted to 38 million Polish zloty with a margin of 65%. Net profit was almost 3 million zlotych with the margin of 5%. Moving to the balance sheet. So as you can see that the balance sheet value declined because of the movement in different parts of the balance sheet. Decline in value of non-current assets was mainly related to amortization of Lords of the Fallen, and this was also netted off with investment into new projects. Non-current assets includes also deferred tax assets, and deferred tax assets also declined by 5 million Polish zloty, and the reason is that we are utilizing tax loss carried forward. So this is the fact that a year ago we had a tax loss that we are utilizing in this year. Current assets decline as the result of decline in trade receivable and cash balance. Equity increased. This is because of the net profit that we generated, and equity was negatively impacted by correction of the previous year with the net impact of 7 million Polish zlotych, and this resulted in the revenue of a statement in our US entity. We've netted off by 500,000 different recognition of motivational plan. Different recognition, I mean that we change recognition of the motivational plan in the subsidiaries. So this is the net result of this change. Long-term portion of liabilities decline resulting from the reduction in deferred tax liability. You may see that current liabilities significantly decline, and this is the result of repayment of two draft facilities in PKO BP. We paid in January over 30 million Polish zloty, and also we repaid also marketing expenses which related to release of the game. Let's move to the cash flow. Net cash flow from operating activities was 29 million Polish zloty, and this is basically the result of conversion of trade receivables into cash, and also, as I mentioned before, that we paid trade liabilities in January, February related to marketing campaign from the previous year. Net cash flow from investing activities. This is the reflection of our investment in the current projects. Net cash flow from financing activities was minus 17 million, and this is the result of two main factors. The first one that I mentioned before is repayment of two bank overdraft facilities over 30 million, and on the other hand, we took a new we opened a new bank facility with PKO BP in the second quarter with limit of 15 million Polish zloty. So that's all it's about financials. I think we can move to the next section with strategy update.
Thank you, Katarzyna. And again, this is very important moment for CI Games. We have been working on that strategy for a longer period of time. This is strategy and product roadmap for the next over 4 years, up until 2028. Before we get there, just a quick reminder who we are as CI Games. We're developing and publishing AAA, AA+ games. We have established track record across those genres, 2 major evergreen franchises. We're working on a cutting-edge Unreal Engine 5 that is a more mature platform, and Lords of the Fallen was one of the first bigger games on that engine. We have best-in-class talent. We have great developers across 2 studios, people who have a lot of experience, senior team, and people who work together over 3-4 years, and a lot of them also learn a lot from developing the latest one that was Lords of the Fallen we launched last year. And historically, we know and we can deliver strong numbers. And I believe that with our new strategy and execution of that strategy, we'll get further and we'll get into best results that this company ever delivered in the next years. The strategy, in a nutshell, is based on 3 points. So it's a focused product roadmap for the next 3 years, starting from 2026. It's very clear player first focus and highly efficient new operating model across our development production of video games. And it's the financing for supporting all of that and supporting the further growth of the business of our company. Those are the 3 main products, 3 main games that we have in plans for the next 3 years, starting from 2026. Project 3, this has been already announced. It's in a full production. It's the sequel to Lords of the Fallen. It's the next game. I wouldn't maybe calling that sequel, but it's the next game in that franchise. It's the game that we have a very strong partner on board with Epic, that is obviously engaged and involved in supporting us. It's been already several months together. It's great, and we believe that there is a lot of learning that we are taking from the previous one, apart from a strong audience, for that to have a very good chance for a strong release in 2026. We'll speak more about that a bit later. Project Sniper Ghost Warrior Evolved. That's obviously the next iteration in Sniper Ghost Warrior franchise. Speaking in brief, we absolutely keeping our player base in our focus. We know what they really like, especially with the latest installment of a Sniper Ghost Warrior that was called Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 2. It was very well received by players as well as very well received by media. And we absolutely want to keep going with what that audience really liked. But at the same time, we want to add a bit of the survival mechanics to really evolve in a kind of in the right way that franchise going forward. Project H is the next action RPG game. We're planning for that game to be potentially the biggest launch coming from CI Games ever. It's strongly, it's built on the base, on the foundation, on all systems and experience and knowledge coming from Project 3 and Lords of the Fallen that we launched last year. But it's very much driven with plenty of stages where we validate, where we listen to the players, and we have that longer pre-production that will end up with the vertical slice in the first half 2026, when we know exactly what the game we want to develop in details. And obviously that's the obvious part, but we also know exactly what people really like about it, what we can and what we cannot achieve within delivering that. And we then go into a full production, being 100% ready, that we can absolutely bring something that is going to be amazing. It's a focus plan that obviously has the support of United Label. We recently signed 2 new games for United Label. One of them is a Tales of Iron sequel, and the other one is the new IP. We still have that project potential ongoing. We're exploring potentially licensing existing strong IP. This is not something that we consider will happen soon. We have that on our horizon. And again, that strategy is a long-term strategy. So it absolutely is something that we're looking forward to have in the longer run. And Project Expand, we already started, some time ago, conversations and communication and potential partnerships may appear in the next, year or two, where we will be bringing our IPs like Lords of the Fallen or Sniper Ghost Warrior into other formats outside of the video games. Then we go back to Project Survive and Project Scorpio. Especially with Project Survive, we still planning to make a strong impact with that game. So we're reconsidering how we're approaching that game, and we will communicate to investors when we make final decisions sometime next year. And the same goes with Project Scorpio. We have certain advancement on that project, but this is something that both of those projects we will be able to communicate more next year. They are important, but they are not the highest priority in terms of focus for us as CI Games. And obviously, near-term focus, it's leveraging previous investments. This goes with Lords of the Fallen. We built a bigger. It's a large game. Let's face it. Lords of the Fallen 2023, so we call that internally. It's a larger game, and there's a lot we can take from the standpoint of, the foundation, but also from the standpoint of experience, learning, and the team that we somehow built over the time when we developed Lords of the Fallen. Sniper Ghost Warrior, we had several installments, especially the last one was really successful when you look into a return on investment, and want to bring that further and want to make that as a core pillar of our near-term focus, and we'll do that. Project 3, and that's something that I already explained in a bit more details. It's currently in the concepting, but we are very confident that this is something that this project will be something that we can be very proud of, and something that will be from the start really player first and player centric, and basically we'll have players very engaged in creating that game from the start. And that goes the same to Project Sniper Ghost Warrior Evolve. Very similar way of thinking, a very similar way of how we see that project from the start going. And I think there will be a little more on that coming later in that presentation. And so I think that we are very excited about what we can bring to the audience in the next years, and we believe this is a very strong, solid plan that we know we can execute, and we have a lot that we can basically leverage on. It goes all to, we feel we're capable. We have established IPs. We have very strong development studios with very strong talent, international talent that prove to work together and has a lot of experience with previous titles and also working for CI. There is a great opportunity in the market, especially looking into a very positive comeback of sort of single-player games or single-player cooperative games in a premium format. And you have some great examples that have been very successful recently, and that is clearly provides even more confidence to us that what we are planning to do is absolutely correct and is absolutely best we can, considering what we have and where we are coming from. And again, the approach to be really player first and the player centricity, we absolutely 100% committed to that. And at the end of the day, it's absolutely way beyond just testing the game from the standpoint of performance. It's designing our games with that player first approach in mind and validating every major decision when we design games with the audience, with the real audience, if this is absolutely in line with their expectations. I think that's absolutely essential for those games to be successful, and obviously those games being successful will make this company really successful. So we absolutely 100% committed to that approach. We are changing, as previously said, the way we will run operationally our production, our studios. It's a bigger change for us. It's very important. We're learning from what worked for us and what wasn't ideal. This is something I want to handle to Tom, the Senior VP of Development.
Hi everyone. Yeah, the Lords of the Fallen launch experience, it was a key driver for change at CI Games. You know, launching a game of this scale across multiple platforms, it was a huge achievement for development and publishing. And before I joined the company, I could see what the company were aiming to achieve, and it was impressive what they were trying to do. But there were a number of significant key learnings, and we've now taken these on board to evolve our operating model for the future. So since joining the company earlier this year, I've been working closely with the teams across the business, identifying what we did well and what we could do better to increase the quality of our games and ensure they're much more accessible and appealing to a broader market. Maximizing the appeal is an essential first step, and we aim to achieve this by fully embracing our player first development approach. This framework puts our players at the center of how we build our games. It begins right at the start of the project, during early concepting phase, and it goes right through to the end of full production, where we validate that the game is actually ready to release to market. We focus our efforts on clear and relevant thematics that we know the community love, with popular and proven gameplay mechanics that we know will reach a wider addressable audience. And we minimize our barriers to entry by focusing on quality over quantity and continually test the game many times to remove those friction points and better guarantee player attention. From a technical perspective, we've got really strong relationships with our hardware partners, and we'll continue to build on these through closer and earlier collaboration. And as Marek mentioned earlier, we've got a really good partnership with Epic since our exclusivity agreements on Project 3, the next installment in the Lords of the Fallen franchise, and we're receiving excellent quality tech support for Unreal Engine, which is also now more mature. We're committed to ensuring that our games are fully optimized and robust across all platforms. And the highly iterative development approach, fully tested, balanced, polished, gives us a much better chance of hitting that 80+ user review and receiving positive user sentiment at launch, which is essential. And we reduce the risk by aiming to innovate within proven genre. So whether that's developing a sequel to an existing game such as Lords of the Fallen and improving on that in many ways with the next installment in Project 3, or building on those foundations that we've already established and creating a new IP such as Project H. Either way, the goal is to aim for low to moderate risk with mid to high return potential. Data-driven efficient marketing enables us to capitalize on the investments we've made to date with Lords 23, where we had significant spend to drive global IP awareness. And this provided successful brand activations and provided us with extensive learnings and insight. And going forwards, we're much more confident we can be targeted and efficient with our marketing campaign spending. In order to ensure there's complete oversight of our new operational model and to drive efficiencies across the business, we've moved all of our development and support services under a new business division named Development Management and Support Office. I'm leading this division and responsible for each of our internal development teams, as well as applying the same principles and oversight to how we manage the Sniper Evolve project with our development partner. Support services teams, such as QA and release management, are also now under my remit and within this division, and this allows for improved parity with production and development. The publishing production team includes creative direction expertise and evaluation support, as well as dev management oversight of our cross-studio talent, which allows for that talent sharing across the business. And this will enable us to become much more efficient in the future, with the mindset that all dev talent is CI talent and can move between projects as and when required. And the key outcomes for this new operational model are to drive product validation and optimization, achieve greater quality, efficiency, and predictability, which is really important, and promote a healthy culture of cross-studio sharing and collaboration. All these working together, feeding into each other to allow us to grow the business in the right way. So in summary, to drive those greater efficiencies, we've got a simplified structure with stronger development management and support. We've got all of our development and support services under my remit, allowing full visibility and oversight of game production across all projects. And we're really proud of our top tier talent at CI, and this new infrastructure allows us to implement this new talent sharing model. This provides us with the opportunity to facilitate knowledge sharing across the group and help reduce that project fatigue that is very common in the industry. Optimizing how we utilize our talent pool is providing greater efficiencies and higher quality games. And that streamlined and smarter marketing approach can significantly reduce our future marketing budgets. Project 3, the next installment in the Lords of the Fallen franchise, that will benefit from our previous marketing investment and those successful brand activations with that global IP awareness. Our IP will remain front of mind with players going forward, with a commitment to ongoing improvements and content post-release. And our extensive learnings from Lords 23 have provided us with a really great foundation to build upon, meaning we can focus on more efficient future activations that deliver significant impact. This slide gives you a high-level overview of how our player-first development approach maps to a game production timeline. As you can see from here, we've got a series of gates at each key development milestone, and these signify major validation steps in a development lifecycle. No project proceeds past these gates until we're satisfied we've met our goals, and this is supported by actual player-driven data. What's important to note, though, from this is that these gates are in addition to the more frequent and regular development milestones. The player-first strategy has evaluation, validation, and iteration steps throughout production. And some of the tools we use for this process include consumer insights, market appeal testing, product benchmarking, player user research, expert evaluation, and where applicable, open and closed beta testing. And this constant evaluation and iteration mindset ensures we can reach a broader market, minimize those user experience friction points and where people drop off in games, improve the retention with easier onboarding, and ultimately drive that much more positive player sentiment and the higher user scores. Thank you. I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you, Tom. That's obviously very essential. It's a big change from the operational standpoint, how we'll be running the company. And obviously, our product development, it's probably over 80% of the staff that we are hiring globally. Point 3, it's the finance strategy in a nutshell, how we basically support delivering, how basically support executing that strategy in the next years. So on one side, we have lower cost to market. It's more efficient development. It's building on existing IP, building on existing architecture, experience learnings, how we use different systems, including the engine, building on more mature technology as well, and working closely with partners. It's a streamlined team with this new operating model that at the end of the day, it will be more efficient, because what we deliver in terms of games to the market, when we'll be launching them, they will simply be much more in line with the expectations. And what Tom said previous slide on marketing, we absolutely want to have a lower spend on marketing and more targeted campaigns. We've seen that really working well for some of the other games recently launched by other developers and publishers who had not that big a campaign we had last year with Lords of the Fallen for their products, but achieved even much higher sales than what we achieved, and they build that awareness through that targeted campaigns, and basically showing the game through the assets like trailers, and presenting that game to influencers, to communities through the influencers, through the press, through the media. I think that from that standpoint, the global market is way more efficient than it was years ago, and we can achieve a lot more without a massive spend we had last year. And those are the important points on one side of that efficiency of our product development and basically publishing, marketing, go to market. But on the other side, we will be financing this expansion, this execution of the strategy through the operating cash flows, through obviously a partnership and deal we have with Epic, where they have exclusive rights for the PC, for publishing on the PC platform. We will be looking forward to expand our debt level with the bank and beyond that as well. And we are absolutely considering, we are open for further partnerships in sort of like co-publishing, distribution, platform specific. So obviously there is nothing concrete, and but we know that there is absolutely interest out there, and there is absolutely need from the standpoint of especially those bigger partners for new content and partnerships over new content. So this is something that may also happen. We don't want to say it will happen. We don't want to promise anything, but we feel very confident that we have a clear strategy on how we want to finance this this business. I want to finance that execution of the strategy in the next years. As a summary, we believe we have a very solid platform, a very strong strategy, refreshed strategy going forward, built on established IPs, built on our experience, built on and leveraging basically everything what we have done and everything what we have as a company right now, and the strategy that is focused on delivering games that all of them have very strong chances. They have very strong chances to be successful. All of them are in the right type of genre, in the right type of thematic, and all of them can appeal and to a big audience, bigger than those audiences were before, with the mindset and the strategy we want to execute. And at the end of the day, what's important here for the investors, that will deliver strong, profitable growth of the company, and should absolutely impact valuation of this company in the next years. Thank you for taking time to go through the presentation of the new strategy in the first half together. And let's get into questions from investors. We'll try to cover the most important, as many as we can. There's a good question. With the appointment of Tom and new management operating structure, are you stepping back from day to day? That question is to me. So let me answer that. I'm not stepping back, but we clearly have a new structure, and the development, the production of video games, all are run by Tom. They used to report directly to me as a CEO. That all goes to Tom. So, for the simplicity, I think operations, for the sake of better phrase, are managed by Tom, and but we run the business together as a senior leadership team that is currently 6 people across publishing, finance, sales, marketing, and obviously the largest part of that is product development. That's where we need to improve the most in terms of the efficiency. And I think, just to be clear here, we haven't said that, but when we were working on the strategy in the last months, we basically said very clearly, like, the company, you could say, had a certain weak spot in terms of delivering those big games to the market. We did well on the mid-tier games. We did very well on the smaller games. On the bigger games, that was our weak spot. And we said this is really the weak spot that we have to a degree, and we have to address that. So part of the change, the new strategy, is addressing that and shifting that to our strengths going forward, and that's why we are so much emphasizing around that. Why are you confident your new releases will cut through in increasingly challenging market? So let me answer that question again myself. We touched upon that. We are developing video games. All those 3 main projects are in a big audiences. Action RPG audience is very large. Recent Black Myth Wukong sold very quickly over 20 million copies. And that's exactly the same genre. It's not exactly the same game, but it's very similar. it just demonstrates the genre that we are at, and also the thematic, being in a fantasy game, is having can have a very strong, big audience. And I think that is number one. Number two is that we are taking learnings. We're taking a lot of feedback, so we understand the audience better than ever on those games. So even we're building a new IP with Project H, there's a lot we are taking from our experience over Lords of the Fallen that we launched last year, and Project 3 that we will launch in 26. So that's another thing. And then with this player first approach, we will be validating the game, as Tom said, on every stage, and probably on every stage multiple times, and multiple times with different audiences, different groups, with consultants as well. So, for as long as there is a market, and we clearly see, yes, there is a large market for products that we are developing, and for as long as we can deliver the products at the right quality, that is basically meaning to us, those games should and will sell substantially. And we believe we can deliver that quality to that big audience that is there, definitely, and existing. And there's another question that I should probably answer. What models, traditional versus game as a service, and price points are you aiming at? Those three games were absolutely premium. So it's premium, not so much as a game as a service. It's a premium focused, a single player with robust cooperative experience. This is the model that we know very well, and this is the model that worked well for us many times. And seeing that game as a service space becoming more and more competitive, we are very confident that decision of sticking to the premium traditional is the right decision. In terms of the price points, on Project 3, on other products coming forward, will be more or less in line with what we did recently, but it's too early to announce that. Just to give a bit more color on Project 3, we consider that a full price game. Tom, I think this is to you. Can you evidence how you addressed weaker player sentiment following the release of Lords of the Fallen 2023 and the impact of this action?
Yeah, so in terms of the weaker player sentiment since the launch of the game, the team were committed for about 6-7 months after release to continue to improve the game. I think there's around 30 updates. We continue to respond to community, balancing issues, improving bugs, etc., optimization. We're actually committed to continuing that. It's very important that we do everything we can to ensure that the player sentiment is as strong as it can be, within obviously the boundaries of the game that we've already kind of released, and give them confidence that we're there, we're listening, and we're going to be taking on those learnings, not only for the current game but for the future of the franchise as well.
Has the reception of Lords 23 impacted your ability to hire and retain the right talent in the studios? That question is to you, Tom. Again, I think.
Sure. So I've not seen. So since I've joined CI, I've been very involved in all of the hiring process and seeing the candidates coming in. What I would say is that as a multinational remote company, we've always been able to attract excellent talent. The amount of candidates coming into the pipeline that I've seen are top class. Like, I've not seen any issue at all with hiring for the key roles that we've got across the studio. So I don't think that's had an impact. I actually think probably the opposite, where, like I did as an outsider before I joined, looking in, I could see what CI Games were trying to achieve. Like, it was really impressive, to be honest. And I think for other hires, other candidates, they're potentially seeing the same thing. Like, they can see themselves adding a lot of value and really helping to drive the games forwards.
Thank you. Can you share the details of the agreement with Epic? We cannot. This is confidential. But obviously, the contribution of Epic is substantial, and once we, I mean, it's substantial, and I mean, this is something we cannot obviously share, but clearly we decided not to proceed with the capital raise once we signed the binding contract with Epic. So that can also answer that question to a degree, I hope. Could your players' experience of Lords 23 put them off trying Lords 26, and how will you ensure a wider audience is aware of how different the two are? That is to you, Tom, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think there's a number of components to this question. I think first of all, as well as being committed to improving the current game, we'll be making sure that as part of our validation approach, we'll be bringing in those players who would have experienced the first game and seen the next game and getting some really kind of good level qualitative feedback from those guys as well. I think from a development perspective, we'll be making sure that the next game is significantly improving on the last game. We'll be testing it through our target players, previous players from the franchise, as well as the new broader market we want to appeal to as well. And then a lot of the how we actually address that audience is how we do it through our kind of like campaign and through our communications. Once we've announced the game and we're communicating outwards in terms of like what the position of the product is and the overall direction. So yeah, multiple components to that one, but we're confident that we can, bring players to the new game and also reach to a wider audience as well.
The question around the player first, can you tell us specifically how your approach has evolved versus previous years? So I'm happy to answer that question, as Tom wasn't part of that. And we said a lot about player first, so that I don't think it needs to be addressed any further. But the way it was previously with Lords of the Fallen, obviously we built a studio from the scratch. We started from first person, second person, key directors in at the very beginning. So we've been building the studio at the same time when we've been building the systems for the game. At the same time, we've been building content for the game and the game itself. So we had certain validation of players' research, but that came late, and we were limited because everything kind of like, it's always the same when you start from the scratch building the project, that you can validate certain things later, or much later. And that's very different now. We're in a very different position, and we also have a different mindset and different strategy around that. So we prefer to maybe slow down some of the stages to make sure we do things right, and then accelerate and expedite the development when we have that certainty. And when you look, and that question, going back to Sniper Ghost Warrior, we also have a lot on that, right? So it's not going to be from the scratch, obviously. Can you estimate the savings from building a new iteration of a previous game on the same engine with architecture already in place? Tom, can you answer that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's difficult to put exact numbers on these savings because there's so many variables involved. But like from my experience, the bottom line is that we will always be more efficient with this process. And that's mostly due to that reduced risk and time in pre-production. We've got proven pipelines, foundations to build on. The team can move into, pre-production phase confidently, having all the right tools to be able to prototype, etc. It does, iterative development. So, for example, Project 3, building on Lords of the Fallen. In terms of IP development, it massively reduces that IP exists. But yeah, just overall, reducing that concept phase, pre-production, research and development risk time costs. But you know, with sequels, the reason why you can't put an exact number on it is that it's not just basically we're building on it, but there's always new assets and features and improvements to existing features. So ultimately, though, the bottom line is that it's absolutely much more efficient and more cost effective, this approach.
Tom, this is another for you. How big of a team is currently working on Project 3, and is that the target number? I guess this is about the internal team, as obviously we have a lot external.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, our internal team's just over 90. We have a lot of outsourced partners that we work with, and the great thing about us being a remote company is we work very well as an internal company between ourselves, and then when we onboard outsourcers, they plug in exactly the same way. So it's a really good process.
Can you expand on your access to data and insights to drive decisions? I think it's, you know, I mean, it's again, Tom, if you can potentially share some basics on that, including some of the player research, you know, we do. I think that's the question around that, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's a number of marketing tools that our team use in terms of access to, you know, genres and size of genres and player profiles, etc. From a from a kind of like a user research perspective, you know, when we engage with our partners, you know, we recruit players that are of certain profiles, and quite often having multiple cohorts of different types of players, and then those insights that we get in a number of different ways, you know, we can be testing things, just an initial concept, just to get an appeal from these players, and then when we actually get into the stage when we've actually got code to test, you know, we're actually getting people playing the games and not just reporting kind of bugs and usability issues, but actually really research-led, qualitative research that actually gets us to the meat of what we really want to find out, which is players' motivations, what they like, what they dislike, you know, and helping us basically build on what we can do to iterate on the development and then to go back and validate that we've made those right choices.
Why is the capital raise still on hold? Was there not enough interest? Might you return to this? So, in brief, capital raise is not on hold. It's not anymore available for the management. That was communicated recently, and absolutely we had enough interest. And if we wanted to raise, we would be able to issue basically, I mean, raise, you know, up to everything that was available to the management. It was the management decision of not going for the capital raise that was very much connected to signing this bigger agreement with Epic that I communicated before. And currently we have no plans, what I also informed clearly in the last weeks. If I understand correctly, there will be still support for Lords of the Fallen 2023. We're working obviously on further updates, and we are excited to deliver more on Lords of the Fallen that we launched last year. And this is important for us, not just from the commercial standpoint, but it's important from the standpoint of sentiment. I think Tom mentioned that as well. I mean, so yes, we are absolutely committed further to updating Lords of the Fallen we launched last year. Question around why the sales in the second quarter doubled versus first quarter of 2024. I think this is Katarzyna, you may want to answer that. Is related to.
Yeah, this relates to contract with Microsoft related to Game Pass. Lords enrolled Game Pass on the last day of May, and we recognize revenue related to Game Pass in the second quarter of this year.
Thank you. Just trying to find one more question. Will you offer a lower difficulty mode on Lords of the Fallen 23? Or you finished tweaking the difficulty? I think we know it's important, so we're still addressing that. We're still adding to that, and this is part of making this game more accessible. I mean, making any video game more accessible is a kind of like a multi-dimensional exercise. So this is part of that. So yes, we are working on that as well. And there was one more question on Microsoft in terms of the size of that deal. This is again confidential. We cannot provide any further color, any further detail on that deal. All right, I think that we answered pretty much on all topics. Some questions were basically very similar, so we will not be answering the same. Thank you so much for coming over to our investor call. Yeah, I'm very, very enthusiastic about rolling that strategy and executing upon that new strategy.
Thank you for the presentation and for answering the questions. And I wish you the best of luck as you continue to develop the studio and implement the strategy. My and your guests were Katarzyna Sermanowicz-Giza. Thank you, Katarzyna.
Thank you.
Tom O'Connor. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And Marek Tymiński. Thank you, Marek.
Thank you very much.
That's all for today. Greetings and have a nice day. See you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.